Okay, wonderful. So yeah, I wanted to we got that okay. Just share this new toy that's arrived today, a little portable harmonium. And the fun part is it's arrived all the way from Calcutta and has a sound that is almost as good as the big one. So let's start with a song. Can you hear the harmonium? Is it audible? The harmonium. Is the harmonium audible? May all beings find happiness. May all people be love and lovingness. May whatever happens in any moment happen in love, in joy, in peace, regardless of the circumstances. Yeah. Great. So let me introduce our guests for today. We have with us Kaitlyn Bach. You all know Supriya, my daughter, and Kaitlyn is Supriya's childhood friend. They've been friends since they were how old? 5 years old, and always been in and out of each other's homes. So Kaitlyn has been always with us growing up, and so she's my third daughter in a way. So that's Kaitlyn, and we also have with us Miguel. Kaitlyn is from the US, of course, and Miguel is from Spain. Miguel is born and brought up in Madrid and living in Spain currently. And we are very, very lucky to have them both with us today. And the thing that is so special about both of them is that they have spent the major part of their adult life so far helping to conserve the forest, conserve species, conserve wildlife and animals all over the world. So they have experiences in taking care of wildlife and forests and helping to conserve the environment, basically. And they've given literally their time and their lives and energies, putting themselves in extremely unimaginably difficult situations, as you hear from some of their stories, and giving up a lot of the comfort that we can imagine in the West, and going into places that you may not even have heard the name. So that's why I wanted to invite them and have them share with us some of their experiences. And to me, we talk about oneness, we talk about we are all one, all life is one. But the best way to express that is to show that in your actions, to show that in your, not just by speaking and understanding and agreeing, but actually taking the next step and seeing what we can do to help our fellow life forms on this planet. And they've actually done that. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is like a podcasting, no?
Yeah, I know. That's what this is. So great. So maybe either of you can answer this, but why do what you do? Why go through all the inconveniences of a wildlife, insect, and pest infested place like a forest, instead of staying in an air-conditioned, warm house in America and putting yourself through that. Why is that important? Why would you do that?
Well, I would like you were talking earlier about being one.
Yeah.
And I think I will answer your question with a story.
Okay.
I mean,
great.
okay, this is like very light story.
Light story.
I will save the real story for later. But I think this goes very well with the feeling we want.
Okay.
So
Are you able to hear Miguel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand my accent?
And you understand what he's saying?
Yes, we do. I do.
Miguel has Spanish accent, but I think it's clear enough. So
yeah,
very clear.
I will slow down. I speak like very fast.
Sorry, Sonal. What did you say, Sonal?
Not very clear. The
So
mic has to be closer. And you could slow down a little, maybe.
Where is the mic?
The mic is over there.
You put it on your phone and then you mute that one. No? We can mute that one.
Maybe mute that one and turn this on. Yeah. Let me try that.
Yes, I can mute that one.
It's echoing.
No, not right now. It won't be echoing, but it could start echoing once we mute it. If you tap it, something should come.
Recording in progress.
Okay, now can you hear me? But now it's going to echo.
We hear what echo there.
It's going to echo.
Say things.
Okay, good.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes? Fine. Cool.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, as I was saying, I think like you had a very nice point of being one and how living in urban areas normally disconnect us from nature and all that stuff. So so when in like 10 years ago I spent like a whole year living in the Amazon forest.
Amazon.
Yeah, it was like really isolated place. Like we were like 8 hours away from any kind of civilization. Yeah, so we had to take like one little jeep and 2 boats. Yeah, so we were in between rivers. It was really deep in the forest. It was an amazing experience. You were walking through areas that it made you feel like no man has ever touched that. So normally as a scientist, I was working with monkeys there. And normally you do teams, you 2 people go follow with these monkeys. So you are never alone in the forest because anything can happen.
Right.
But the station where I was staying was so expensive.
Okay.
It was very fancy. It was in the middle of nowhere, but it was super fancy. I mean, we had like AC but not in the rooms, but we had like a lab, and like you need everything to be kind of dry because if not, it will get destroyed super fast. So we need to have like ACs, and they were not all day long. The AC maybe like 2 hours a day, something like that. But it was relatively comfortable for being like a bush station.
Right.
So my boss didn't have enough money to pay for a big team, so we were only 2. We were studying different species. So which means that I would spend like 10 to 14 hours a day in the jungle by myself.
Right.
So it's like when you are by yourself for months at a time, following these animals, and you are part of with nature, and it almost felt like this overwhelming feeling of being nothing, compared with the greatness of what the nature is, and you will feel everything when you eliminate all the distractions of life, of the modern urban life. I mean, even another human. So like I was alone in the forest for the longest time, and only there with your thoughts and with the animals and with the wildlife and the plants and everything. You will feel everything you touch, everything the smells, the sounds of the forest. And you feel like it's the first thing that happened to me, like this deep philosophical connection with nature.
Right.
And me, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in no God or anything.
Okay.
But it was undeniable to feel like this one thing
Right. The
connected,
one thing
yeah.
that's connected.
Exactly.
Everything. That's a very, very interesting point, guys. I don't know if you picked up on that. That Miguel is saying he's an atheist, so doesn't necessarily believe in a creator or a God, and yet the oneness which connects us all was unmistakably real for him, and that's the fun. Yeah, you want to add something, Kaitlyn?
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The question you asked was, why do you do this?
Right.
So
that's the reason why I do this,
that was what he was saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So for me, it's similar, but I mean, my experience was was more on the one-to-one level with animals. I've always been interested in animals, and Sanjiv's known me since I was a little girl, and I've always pets, animals. I'm crazy about animals. That's always what I wanted to do. I knew that, so I came onto the planet knowing that. So I came onto the planet with a mission. I always felt that I had a calling. I always felt that. So I knew that from the very beginning. But everything really solidified for me when I was working with great apes. So I started, one of the first things that I did in this line of work was work at a orangutan and chimpanzee sanctuary when I was 19. And it was my first time working with sort of exotic animals like that. And I still remember my very first day. I walked past an orangutan, and it was a male orangutan with big cheeks, big cheek pads. And he saw me and he started getting very worked up, and he started to display, and he grabbed the ropes of his enclosure and he started to swing, and he had big long hair, and he started to long call. And it was the craziest thing I had ever seen. And I couldn't believe that those animals lived on this planet and lived in the trees. It's the largest arboreal animal on the planet. They live in trees. And it seemed like something from a fantasy. It seemed like a fantastical creature. And I couldn't believe they live in the wild, but my context for them was always them in cages. And all I knew about them was them as prisoners, them as caged animals. And so in the weeks that unfolded, I started to spend time with them and get to know them as individuals. And this is what happens when you work with chimpanzees and orangutans and great apes. You start to see that they are humanoid beings. They're other beings that are like us. And orangutan, yes, they are people, exactly. Orangutan actually means people of the forest, because orang means forest in Indonesian and Malaysian, and utan
means
I'm sorry, other way around. Yeah, the other way around. Orang is person, people, and utan is forest. So they're people of the forest, or forest people. And so I literally mean that. And so I started to just kind of, it was a very unsettling feeling, actually. It was very existential, because you realize that you're working with sort of humanoid beings that are imprisoned and exploited, and you just can never shake that feeling. And so I never got over that. I eventually I had to just keep pursuing it. I knew that something had changed in me fundamentally, and so the calling kind of crystallized, and I just followed it, I guess. Yeah, and it led me all over the world.
Yeah, and it's literally all over the world, right? I mean, you guys have been, if you name all the countries you've been to, Ecuador,
The countries I
lived in.
lived in Colombia, Ecuador, and Spain. I lived in Denmark. I lived in Nigeria, Myanmar, and Guinea.
And you, Indonesia?
I've only lived in Indonesia and the US. I've been all over the world.
Been all over, but yeah, right.
But I work in Africa.
And now in Africa. So you work with all over Africa. So I still remember pictures that you sent from way back when, with you holding a orangutan baby and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing that that really is going to holds, promise for a future in which the world will survive. Because without this kind of effort, where we are we have been so constantly preoccupied with just our own species and our own comfort that we don't care. For example, we don't realize that the palm oil that we consume so easily in so many products comes from palm trees, which have to be cut down in order to get palm oil, and that we are cutting down the very habitat of species like orangutans, that we are taking away their homes literally, and for trivial reasons. I mean, it's just a matter of not being even aware and knowing that what impact you and I are having on this. So yeah, I've heard lots of stories from both of them about how all kinds of adventures. So on the it's like on the one hand, it seems like they're going through a lot of inconveniences and taking so much trouble and all of that. But on the other hand, when you hear their stories, it's like adventure to the max, where things that you and I commuting on trains and buses and just living in the city, those are adventures that you and I can only dream of. So on the one hand, it's difficult, but on the other hand, it's adventure to the extreme. So you guys want to share some of those?
You can start. You tell the story that you love so much about the motorbike.
Motorbike.
Everybody loves that story.
Yeah.
No, that needs more context and
That's-
stuff.
No,
But you should talk about.
No, you explain that. Then I will explain mine with it. Yeah.
You can give the context in 2 sentences.
Yeah, it's not so
Okay.
difficult to explain.
Oh, I was okay. They want me to tell this one story. This is a funny story. So, because I was actually with him when this happened. This happened.
It was all my fault.
It was all his fault. I was visiting him for the first time in Guinea, where he was living. He lived there for 4 years. This was last year. He took me to, and by the way, to visit him in Guinea I live in Florida in the US. It takes 3 days to get from Florida to where he lives. So just a flying and 3 days back. So it takes almost a week just to arrive and depart. And that includes, 3 or 4 flights. And then
Taxi drive,
then you
12 hours.
arrive in Conakry, then the capital, then it's 12-hour taxi from the capital to his town. And by the way, that taxi is a completely insane experience where the taxi is falling apart. The car is 50 years old and older. You have to, there's no air conditioning. You have to keep the windows. It's like the Flintstones. You have to, it's so hot out, but there's no air conditioning. So you have to keep the windows down, but it's so dusty. So you get covered in dirt the whole time. So you're completely covered in red dirt for 12 hours, getting thrown, and then only to get to that town. And then we had to take another 7-hour taxi to go to this other town to have this meeting with the village. That was 7 hours of that. And then at the end of that, he said, okay, now that we're here, we're going to go to the field camp and spend the night at the field camp. By the time that we left the village that we were at, it was what?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
It was already night. But that's because that guy stole the money from us.
The first thing that happened is that morning we got ripped off $100 or something.
Yeah. So we had this taxi, we have worked with this taxi man to take us to this place. And we say, okay, we meet at 7 a.m.
Right.
So we go there and we finish our meeting at 2 or something like that. So then we can move on to the camp during the day.
Right.
But the guy didn't show up.
Yeah.
He got the money. He disappeared. So we didn't get another taxi until like 5-6 hours later. So exactly.
Right.
So then fast forward to us finally arriving in the village and then him telling me, okay, now we have to take a motorbike. After all of this driving, we have to take a motorbike to the field camp where we're going to spend the night. And everyone, by the way, kept saying to him, Miguel, the road is really bad, by the way. The road's really bad. He said, okay, I know. And he said, they kept saying, no, just the road's really bad. They kept saying, oh, and he said, okay, it's fine. He said, yeah, I know. Okay. I didn't understand what was going on. Everyone's talking in French. I don't speak French. So all I know is at 6 p.m. we're about to get on the motorbike.
Started raining.
It starts to rain a little bit. And I know things are bad because I get on the motorbike and the driver puts a jacket on me. They look at me, they look confused, they look concerned. They put a jacket on me, and it has a zip drawstring, and they pull the drawstring, so all I can see is this. And they're looking at me very concerned. I don't know what's going on. I don't have a helmet.
You have a helmet on?
No, only the driver had a helmet. And they just said, okay, it's gonna take an hour. It took 3 hours.
Because it was raining.
It was
nice.
And it was the most psychotic experience of my entire life, which is saying a lot. I'm telling you, this is saying a lot because I have traveled in the Amazon. I lived in Indonesia and Borneo. I've been all over the world. I've been to probably 30 countries. This drive was one of the craziest experiences of my entire life. And we start the motorbike journey, and I about 3 minutes into the journey, we go onto the road, which turns out is not a road at all. This is not a road. This is a path, if you will, a path on the best day. Through tall grass. It's a path on the best day. On the worst day, I don't even know. It's a suggestion of a path. And we go through on a motorcycle, and a tall grass that's just, I'm completely getting hit in the face, like nonstop, literally nonstop for 3 hours. If you can imagine that experience, it's worse than you can imagine. I only have enough time. I don't have a helmet. I only have enough time to get my sunglasses and just kind of like smush them onto my face in time to protect my eyes. And this goes on for literally hours. I couldn't open my eyes. I had to hold on to the driver, and Miguel put me on the best driver, aka the fastest driver. We went so far ahead. Miguel was on a different motorbike. He was with the worst driver. And so I'm 20 minutes ahead of them, and quickly it's dark. All of a sudden it's pitch black. I can't see anything. I'm just getting moved between this. I'm covered. I start getting covered in bugs. The biting ants are in my clothing, and I had bugs crawling all over me. I fall over. The bike crashes 3 times. 3 times we crash. One time I fell into a swamp. It was a swamp. Because you just drive through the swamp. You don't stop. You just drive through. We fall over.
That sounds totally crazy. And I still have to get his version of it and why you ever put you through that kind of stuff. What was so important for you to get there that night? But that's another story. But what I also wanted you to share, so this was crazy, but any stories to do with, so what exactly do you do? And what kind of...
Basically, can explain you why we were doing all that.
Why you're doing all that. Yeah, so maybe that. So, but what, that particular field, I don't know, but whatever, what is it that you actually do in the field with the animals? How do you really protect? What's the way to do that? And what are some of the ways that in which both of you in your different parts of the world have done? What has been your experience being in direct contact with this wildlife other than what you already shared about the orangutan? And lastly, I think I want to close with what can people who are not out there as far as you guys are, what can we do?
Okay, I don't know if you guys heard all those questions, but basically, did you hear? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we work in international wildlife conservation. We both do this in different ways. So Miguel works in the field and has historically worked in the field. I work remotely. I work from my computer. So I work for an alliance of wildlife sanctuaries across Africa. But yeah.
And I was working at the sanctuary.
Yes, and he was working at the.
That's how we met, actually.
This is how we met. I mean, broadly, you know, we work for great apes right now. And so what that means is that you're working with victims of illegal poaching, illegal wildlife trafficking. Great apes being gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, bonobos. Bonobos are not monkeys, they are apes. Yes. And humans are considered the 5th great ape.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them, and that includes humans.
Yeah, we don't say consider. We are.
Yes. So
Grade A's.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but Miguel actually can talk about this because Miguel works on the front lines. And so he's the person that has experienced this in firsthand.
Yeah.
He's the person that receives the victims, orphan babies from the wildlife trade, and he can talk about it.
Okay. Well, I would only want to add a little thing about her story.
That story.
So I think the funniest part of that story is that it's not a story for me. So I don't even consider that story a story because it was my everyday life. Yeah.
He never even noticed it was great.
So I mean, I knew it was bad, but it's Africa. Of course, it's bad. It's like every day is like that. There's no. And she was like, "Oh my God!" It keeps telling everybody that story, and I wouldn't even consider telling that story as a story because for me it was so normal. Yeah. For me it was like normal life. So whatever. For me it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday. Yeah. So, but about the actually I had a very good story. If we have time, I can tell Sarah later. So I was saying for us, as we worked saving orphans and things like that. And my job was not directly associated with that, although I had rescued a few teams while I was there because I was the contact person for the organization. So hey, Miguel, we have this baby. What do we do with it? Bring it to me. So I would take care of him until I could send it to the sanctuary.
By the way, bringing it to you involved sometimes a bag.
Oh no! Wow, I have horrible stories, horrible haunting things that it would make me cry only thinking about them. So once Miguel, we had this guy called us. He has a chimpanzee. Come and see him. And then I go to the office, and then this hunter, because he was obviously a hunter, because in Africa the hunters have this special outfit, like they have this hat, and so the guy came with the hunting hat and everything, and he had this sack, this bag, and then he turned down the bag, and then a baby chimp falls into the ground, like he was tied up completely, feet to hands and to neck. He was like this, and I was trying to untie him, and he was trying to bite me, and he was screaming so hysterically. Like I had never seen any chimpanzee screaming like that in my life. And I was haunting. He was like all wound up. His nose was almost gone because his dogs had messed him up completely. And that was haunting. That little baby died like a few days later. Of tetanus. Because it was terrible. But actually, my real job, I really work because to save animals, you need to work with people, because who are the main threat, is the people. So my job was more like sociological, even if I prefer working with animals than with people, I know that it's more important working with people. Exactly. So I mean, you need to understand people, why they do these things. And I always say in conservation, when you work in conservation, you have to tackle three things. First is education. So people do things because they don't know any better. So now you educate them. This is why you shouldn't do it. Now they know. Are they gonna stop doing it? No, because even if they know that they shouldn't do it, if they have no other choice, they will still do it. So second thing is giving them a choice. So okay, you don't do this, do that instead. I will help you do this other thing. And with this other thing, you will be able to sustain your family, and at the same time, you are not gonna destroy, anything else. Now they know they are not supposed to do it. They have another way to do it. Are they gonna stop doing it? No, because they have extra money. They will keep both. You say, okay, you give me this extra thing, I will do the extra thing, and I will still doing the other thing. And the third thing you have to do is law enforcement. So, okay, now that they know they are not supposed to do it, now they have a choice. Send somebody there to make sure that they don't do it.
Right.
So you cannot do any of those individually.
Right, you have to do all three.
You need to do all three. If not, it will never work.
Right.
Never work.
Wow.
Because humans are how we are, we are greedy. So yeah. So that was my job. So I was trying to cover all those three things. So I was working with I have a team of educators where I will teach them what to do, and they go to the schools, talk to the little children, talk to the parents of the children, and then I have a team that they will work with the communities. Okay, let's gonna do a project with beekeeping. Let's gonna produce honey, or let's gonna do a garden, or let's gonna do like, you know. And then I was working with the rangers of the park, like, okay, go here and make sure that nobody gets in. So that's the three things that you do together.
Amazing.
Animals
That's
for
the
what reasons?
Yeah, for greed. I mean, because they think they make a lot of money or whatever, medicine.
But most times it's not even that, you know. Like when I think that's what I was talking about. You know, you go to these countries and they kind of have some respect to wildlife, even though, you know, they might not like it, they might be afraid of it. But when you go to the States or Europe, you know, those are the real people that would pay like $10,000 only to kill a lion, just for the fun of it. And you see videos all over the place with these men taking the little children, 5 years old, with a huge rifle just to kill a zebra or a lion. I say, what kind of values are you imparting to your children? You know, you're teaching them death instead of teaching them love and harmony. And yeah, it's a bit sad.
Everybody has the right to live on this planet. Every living being.
Mm-hmm.
Has
We all have a right to be here. Yeah. I don't know. You want to complete anything?
No, I think that answers the question. I mean, I think we at our core, we believe in the values of coexistence. So like the planet is not ours to conquer. It's not ours to take. It's not ours to bulldoze and flatten. It's ours to share with the other beings that are on this planet, and ultimately following.
And the worst thing is that I think the worst thing is that it shouldn't be so hard, you know.
Right.
And when you think about it, you were asking earlier, what can we do? Most of the things that we can do they're not so difficult, you know.
Yeah,
like for example, like consume less meat, for example, you know, because it's not about the cow or the pig or whatever you're killing or the chicken. It's about the land those animals are occupying.
right.
So it was happening with the Amazon now. They're destroying the Amazon only to grow food to feed these. Exactly.
So that you can eat the pig.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, you know, when you eat fish, for example, the bigger the fish you eat, the worse it is. Because it means, like, you know how it works, you know, the trophic chain, you know, the little fish is eaten by the bigger and the bigger and the bigger. So the bigger fish is like eating lions. It's not sustainable, you know. So they will tell you, no, this fish is grown in a piscifactory.
Yeah.
You say, okay, you have this big cod or big tuna. Yeah. And you are raising those in a farm, but you are feeding them with little fish. So you have to feed those fish to feed them. Exactly. Right. So then it's even worse, you know. Yeah. So I mean, that's a little thing. And then when we were talking about the palm oil, things like that, you know, be a bit more aware. What do we eat? Or when you go holidays, you know, don't go taking pictures with chained tigers and things like that.
Okay, and I have another thought too.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Don't visit zoos.
Oh, zoos. Well, you know, the other thought I had too is that I think that we should encourage young people and our children and grandchildren to make creative choices in their life too, because I think that in the US, at least I can speak to the US, if my parents didn't allow me to explore this, you know, and if there was so much pressure and just following the rules of careers in life, maybe I would never have been able to do this. And I think so many people sort of fall into the trap of having a very prescriptive life, and they have to do this and make money and make those kinds of decisions. And I just think that the world would be a better place if we allowed more people to explore doing this type of work and supporting it as a society, because then more people can contribute to doing that kind of work, and it wouldn't just be one out of every 1,000 people doing it, you know. It would be.
And I think what we're saying about the US is 10x true about India in terms of, okay, you're either going to be an engineer, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going to be a financier. And these are the things, because these are what everyone thinks makes money and makes you comfortable. And that's like the only purpose of a career, is to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Whereas, and the interesting, the paradoxical thing is, that comfort isn't going to last very long.
It's about richness, you know. I
Right.
think we have a misconception of what richness is. You know?
About what?
Richness.
Richness is, yeah.
So people will say, yeah,
Yeah.
richness is this, a TV,
Yeah,
a nice
luxury.
phone. But for me, richness is I can sit down here for hours and talk about my experiences in the wild,
Right,
all the
that's
adventures,
That's wealth.
that's richness, you
That's
know?
richness.
Because that will never go away.
Right.
You know, all the experience I ever had
Right.
with like crazy stuff like what she was telling about the motorbike, all these crazy things, you know,
Yeah.
that enriched my spirit.
Your spirit.
And then when it made me bigger, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I consider myself very lucky because I have had these experiences with wild animals, and now I feel like, oh, I know that they are other beings on this planet, and I've seen like, you know, their personalities and who they are, and I think of that as how lucky, you know, how like, yeah, that's a richness of life, you know.
True. So wonderful. Awesome. So we have maybe another 10 minutes. So anyone has any questions they'd like to ask? If not, we'll just go into a little bit of meditation. Any questions, anyone?
So no questions, but I'd definitely like to say, after hearing you, that you are truly love in action. Imagine going through that on the bike with ants every day, and that was not an experience for you. It means that was a daily affair for you, and yet you went through all that for the love of the animals and the environment and everything, seeing the bigger picture. So definitely we bow down to you, your love in action. I can only say that. Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Great.
It's really beautiful.
Good sharing things.
Yes. Anyone else? Sonal, Sanjay, Gaurav?
Yeah,
Great.
and the other part about her
Yeah.
saying that we all should be so open that if children want to make a decision in that area of life,
Right.
we should allow them to do it, because we sort of put a boundary around ourselves, a square where you only do this or that, and it's all money oriented instead of, just exploring life and reaching out
Exploring.
beyond.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that would
Exploring
really
life and expressing love,
expressing
basically,
love
in
and
whatever way.
envisioning
I mean,
yourself in this manner.
right.
So
You can
it's
be an
really
artist also.
wonderful.
Exactly. And still express love that way.
Yeah, yeah,
So there are many thousands of ways of
yeah.
So if careers were more oriented towards what's your particular skill or what's your passion that will allow you to express the most amount of love in the world,
Yes.
then that would be a much better criteria than the one which is currently used, which is what is that thing which you can do which will bring you the most amount of money.
Yeah.
And not that money isn't important, but you could have that happen along with having enough to sustain and be comfortable in your life.
Once you have enough to live.
Yeah, then after that, what are you going to do?
You know, a lot of these people that are amassing money, like all these
Like
Elon
there's no
Musk.
tomorrow.
You know, that guy, I read the other day, that guy, Elon Musk, he has enough money that they say before the pyramids were built, if somebody will give you $100,000 a day and you spend none of it, you save it. Today,
that's how much money you'll have.
He will still be richer than you. So you imagine
Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
You know
how much wealth is that? It's like so crazy.
Why do you need that money for?
What are you going to do with it? Right. So great. So we'll just take a few moments just to connect with that which they bring into action. So just sit comfortably and just close your eyes and just be in this. Yeah, just take a deep breath in and relax your body. And with the exhalation, connect with the silence that is always present within you, no matter what is going on the outside. Ask yourself the question that even though we are all different on the outside, with different circumstances, different bodies, different homes, different opinions, ask yourself whether your silence and my silence, is there any difference in that silence? This underlying silence which pervades all of life, all people, regardless of their country, their language, their location, is where we all reach back to the source from which we all come. Ask yourself whether this silence is also the same silence present at the source of all creatures, all beings on this planet. The birds, the animals, the trees. We all share this same source. Ask yourself, what would your life be like if you operated out of this common silence that connects all of us? This silence which accepts all that there is in all shapes and forms. Just like space accepts everything, this silence which is the essence of you, if you lived from this silence, what would be the quality of your interactions with people, with yourself, with the environment? Ask yourself what this world would be like if all of us were to operate from this knowing of this silence, this oneness which connects us all. What will be the direction in which the earth, the planet, the world will move if this was the operating principle rather than of consumption? No matter what is happening in your life around you, this inner silence, this inner peace is always available, is always present, readily and immediately accessible. under all circumstances. So the next time and now on, when you're confronted with feelings and situations which disturb you, simply reach back into this very accessible 24/7, 365 available silence, which is your own essence, your own self, and then respond from there. Include in this space, which is limitless, formless, endless. Include all that you hold dear, all the people in your life that you hold dear. Include all the people everywhere, including the ones that you don't know, including the ones that you may not like. There is space for them all in this vastness that is you. Include all nations, all people, all life forms, all animals, all the trees, all the birds, all the fish, all life forms that may be anywhere in the universe. And everything that there is, even the rocks, are part of this same space of lovingness. Include every mountain, every river, every star, and all the space in between, because there is room for everything within you. Know that you are that space, which includes it all. And so is everyone else, that same infinite space. Express your lovingness, your love that now contains everything. Just embrace it all. Bring this vastness and space with you wherever you go. And slowly, you may, looking downwards, turn your head down and open your eyes. And return to this life filled with this space that you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great. So, thank you all. and for joining us. And
Please open up and you can talk, all of you.
yeah, if anyone wishes to say anything.
Yes,
Sorry?
Sanjivji and Vandana, Gaurav.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Sanjay bhai. You're
Please
on mute.
unmute yourself, Sanjayji.
You have to unmute first.
Okay, one. Yeah, unmute. Now you can.
Okay. Yeah, I have entered late, but I enjoyed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you.
Most welcome. Gaurav says, I really enjoyed it a lot. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. I did too. Great. Thank you, Gaurav. And Vandana is very funny.
And we would have really loved to have gone more deeper into this.
Into
This conversation.
Of course. Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
It was fun.
Thank you.
That's fun.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.